today I have a art journal page to go into my homemade art journal book. And I love numbers, and so I'm having a numbers theme today, but I start with 5.5 by 5.5 piece of mixed media, and I'm taking my distress blender brush and some distress spray in the color salvaged patina, and I want to have a solid in the middle, but kind of distressed looking pattern on the edges. So that's what I shoot for. And I have the stencil from Holtz, and I use it in both ways. I apply it through the stencil, and I apply it with the stencil, and I spray through the stencil. So it's just trying to get distressed look around the edges. There was a casino operation for the Berlin Indian tribe in San Diego. He had the expertise to put it together, so don't worry about a thing. Casinos are a bed and breakfast. This thing's a no-brainer. What do you think? This time, he's made a gross miscalculation. Gambling itself by the federal government is not illegal, but the states have their say-so whether you build a casino or you don't build a casino. And unfortunately, we didn't have a compact from the state of California, so they kept closing us down. Without a proper state gambling license, the house loses. Big time. They would break up our slot machines. They would raid our tables. It was an awful thing. Luckily, Gary still has his cash cow to fall back on. Papa Bill Bingo Casino in Kingston. Until it too dries up. In the early 90s, the legislature changed how the casinos were run. Everything went back to the Native Americans, so they were able to manage and run their own casinos. He was rapidly approaching a cash balance of zero. He was losing money. He couldn't pay back his investors. He had debtors. So was Gary. Gary had borrowed money from people who were associated with crime syndicates. Investors were saying that he believed he was a target for it. And the second color I use is tumbled glass, also spray stain. And I have this stencil that I cut on my Cricut, and so I'm just giving a little bit of interest with the second. I dry that up, and then I'm using the micro distress glaze, and that's just to kind of put a barrier to protect the ink that I've got down, so any inks on top will not bleed into these inks. And so I'm adding some rusty hinge because I want it to look aged and distressed on the edges. And then I'm going to give some splatters. I think I do quite a bit of splatter with it. And some of the splatters I kind of just spread with my brush. And dry. And then do a little smooshing so I have some larger splats.
then I take the pen and just buff around the edge. And that is some clear gesso. And get it all dry. The first thing I'm going to add is some numbers from some collage paper. I believe this is called typeset. It's an Ideology Tim Holtz collage paper, and it's got a straight edge there, so I'm just taking my water brush and just trying to fray the edge so that it's not a cut line. It's gonna, the edge kind of dissolves a little bit with water, and that way it just kind of goes into your paper, really. It lays on your paper almost invisible. And there's just different ways of applying it. Here I'm just using some matte varnish medium from Liquitex. I put some down on the bottom, and then on top just to get a nice coverage. I just have a lot of things I'm just gonna put on, and they all have something to do with some numbers. And this is a number stamp, and it didn't stamp real well, and I'm wondering if maybe I had put some of the gel medium got on there, and so it wasn't quite dry yet, but I don't mind it. I wasn't looking for perfection, and it just kind of looks like it's been rubbed off, so that kind of goes with my theme. And that stamp and the one coming up are both rubberdance stamps. A couple of my favorite number stamps. So now I'm just kind of laying out some ephemera that I wanted to apply on top. The dial is from an ephemera pack from Tim Holtz, and it's either urban or collector, I'm not sure which one, as well as the other two taggy looking things. And the tag with the 15 and the 7, it looked different than that. And you'll see, I'll show you what I do with the 452 tag. I sanded it to get the gloss and some of the color off. And then the 15-7 I put on rusty hinge to kind of bring in that orange. And I've laid out a couple of number from the, let's see, what's it, number something ephemera pack, and number list. No, that's not it though. And then I also did a 6.25 cent stamp, and I think that's from Eccentric. But the number strips, maybe. I kind of take each one and dust around the edge with the rusty hinge before I glue it down. And with that dial, I'm putting on some collage medium just because if you put that on, it will soften any gloss. It kind of dulls any gloss look on it. So I'm just trying to glue it in order of how I want it down. So now I'm putting and that one too is also, it's either from typeset or collector. Not sure which one. And then 2 more number strips. Okay, so that number 8 did not look like that at all when I first took it out of the package. And I'm gonna show you what I did to it a little bit, not all the way. Oh yeah, I wanna put a little stamp number there. I'm gonna just repeat the other stamp. Hoping it turns out a little bit clearer there than it did on the side. That's a little better. So the number 8 there started out looking a lot different. It looked a lot like that number 0. I mean, it was an 8, not a 0, but I have this 4-sided nail brush because it's got different smoothness to it. So I'm buffing away the gloss on it, and I added some texture paste, not a lot, just kind of put on a little bit of texture paste. And then I took that metallic copper embossing powder and put it on and embossed it. And that's all I did with that 8. But it made such a huge difference in what I wanted it to look like. And that's from one of the Tim Holtz Urban or Collector as well. And so the 452, I'm doing the same thing. I'm buffing that gloss off. Taking some, let's see, is that walnut stain or vintage photo? Not exactly sure. Can't tell. It's pretty dark. I'm guessing it's walnut stain. And then I also add the rusty hinge. give it a couple different looks. And you may think, what am I doing with that flower? But you'll see. And the circle is, I punched out I have a old book paper that was like a list of tables and numbers, and I glued it onto some cardstock and punched it out, and there I just put a little bit of a leaf pattern on with Distress ink, and then buffed around the edges with some Distress ink, or maybe that was StazOn, or I did around the edges. Totally don't recall. So I'm taking broken china and just filling in this flower. This flower I cut out on my Cricut. And this is another number stamp I have. It's just a conglomeration of numbers all kind of stuck together. And with Rusty Hinge, I stamp on my flower. And I also take Rusty Hinge and go around the flower as much as I can. Can't get into the real tight spots, but and then just kind of press those petals up just a bit. And then I have a little piece of craft cardstock, like scrapbook cardstock, and it had a little glimmer in it. It kind of looked like Rusty Hinge a little bit, and maybe some walnut stain. Anyways, I had a little scrap of it, and so I just glued that into the center. And now I'm just gluing down the other two pieces. Bending up those flower petals just a little bit more. And gluing the center, not all the way out to the end of the leaf. And I'm adding a little tab to the edge just because I thought it would look good. It's a tab. I make them in my Etsy shop, and so I just kind of aged up the edges, and I'm going to stamp a number on it. But my stamps, I have all sorts of stamps, or all sorts of tabs, and they come with the sticky tape, so it's really easy application. I'll put a link in the description if you ever need tabs. So I don't want that whole stamp on my tab, so I'm just kind of masking off the part I don't want. And that stamp is from the Etc. Stampers Anonymous. And here I'm going to take off the shields to the tape and place that tab on, and that's it. I hope you enjoyed this one. I really did a lot. I love this one. And please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Here it is in my book, and you all have a great day.